Well, to mix this with the food I'm about ready to eat, I go back to 1927, 1928. And I lived in Knoxville, Tennessee with my father and mother and a brother. We played baseball back in those days, and the first time my father saw me, I was catching without any shin guards, no breast protector, no mask, and a glove about ready to fall apart. Well, since our family was in the leather business, my dad took me down to his store and he made me a catcher's mitt to fit my hand, the shin guards, and the breast protector, and also a mask. So when he noticed that I wanted to be a catcher, he was a catcher, so he said that I'll remember this fluently. I'm going to teach you guys how to play baseball. And that was back in those days. But in 1927, Babe Ruth and the Yankees came to Knoxville, and they played the Smokies, and that's the name of the team in Knoxville. And I got a baseball signed by all of the baseball players in 1927. And I just sold it 3 weeks ago. 3 months ago. 3 years ago. I'll get it in a minute. But, you know, I go back and I think about all the things that my dad done for us. It just shows you how you can be together with your children and make a lot out of it. He managed this team that I played on, and they're called the Little Smokies. And lo and behold, we won all of the American Legion teams that came into Knoxville. I played on all of them, and my dad managed the team. And we won the state championship in Knoxville, and it was played off in Kingston, Tennessee. I don't know if you folks know anything about Tennessee, but that could go for a long, long time. But why don't we eat a little bit here?
Absolutely.
Think of it again. The shin guard's out of bamboo, really. And it was a cloth, and he sewed up all of it. And I remember that. And the breast protector was the same thing. And that was going this way. And now, I don't know. I don't know where they're at or what. But I was sure pleased when he made me that mitt. Before that, I tried to catch a ball and hit it on the side. The mitt would go right around in my hand like that. So small.
But you had that baseball in your family all those years, huh?
65 years.
That's wonderful.
Yeah. In fact, there's a man down at the end of the table there. He saw the ball. And the thing that amazes me with all the names of the Yankees ball club that I had on there, the only ones that are recognizable right now is Lefty Gomez, Lou Gehrig, and Babe Ruth.
The other one's faded.
And Tony Lazzari. Yeah.
Did the Yankees win that game? You remember?
They did. And another thing, too, that was a very unusual game to me to remember. In the city of Knoxville, they had this baseball stadium. And on the outside of the fence, right in center field, they got the American flag. And on the outside, they had a cinder road. beyond the road, they had a playing field for the children. And beyond that, there was a creek. Dave Ruth hit a ball that day over the flagpole, over the where the swings and stuff were for the kids, and over that creek. They figured it was close to 500. It was just something nice to see.
Was it a big crowd? I mean, was there a lot of fanfare when you...
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Do you remember his size? I mean, did you get the chance to meet him? I mean, when you got
Yeah, I was
outside?
standing right in front of him.
What was your sense? Of course, you were pretty young at the time. Was he a big guy? I mean, in a sense.
Upper torso was huge. His legs were like spindles. But the rest of him, that's where he got all the power. I know, it's in his shoulders.
And Gary, what was your sense of him as far as size?
You know, he was a very nice man. I talked with him a little bit. And since I was a young kid, he sort of patted me on the head and told me, now, don't give up baseball. Keep playing all the time.
Yeah, very encouraging.
Yeah.
Did you also, was Miller Huggins with them, the manager?
Yeah.
You remember him? He seems to me was a pretty diminutive guy.
Yeah, you're right.
I don't know, has anybody else here, other than you, Dick, has anybody ever met Babe Ruth? Did you ever see him?
Did I?
No, I know you did, but everybody else here?
No.
I mean, you're I think you're a legend already. Roy Peterson did, yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to see if there's anything here. I know when I was playing in Mayfield, Kentucky in the Kitty League, Johnny Newman was playing with Hopkinsville in the Kitty League. Hopkinsville, to me, was one of the nicest ball diamonds and stadiums in the whole country. They had concrete fence on the outside, and that it was just beautiful, just immaculate grass cutting, real nice. Yeah.
So you remember Newman, we shouldn't be doing this while you're eating, so.
You're all right.
So
Yeah.
you remember Johnny Newman from another life, I mean.
Oh, yeah, I met him before I came to Jamestown. And Johnny was, same Johnny. You couldn't change him if you wanted to.
Did he have a reputation in that Kitty League? Was he one of the premier players at that time?
Yeah, he was what they call a home run hitter. Yeah.
What class was that league?
Class D.
Class D.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You know, I have to think back when I was playing, the amount of money that I made in comparison to what they're doing today. Yeah. You're going to say that Dick Ressler's a big liar, because I'm going to tell you, I made $125 a month.
Gee, that was a lot of money there, Fred.
Yes, sir. Mm-hmm. Yep.
What'd you make, Lyle? 70, 80? $56 a month.
Yep.
How were you scouted and signed, Dick?
What?
How were you scouted and signed? Do you remember that scenario?
No, because I had a contract to play with Mayfield, Kentucky. And don't you know, when I come home, I come to find out my contract was sold to Jamestown. And they done all of this without even asking me whether I liked it or whether I didn't.
They just sent you.
Now, what
That's
year
right.
would this have been, Dick? Would you run us through chronologically? You started professional baseball in where?
Well, I started going to spring training in 36, 16 years old. And I went to Mayfield, not Mayfield, but Greenburgh, South Carolina. And I stayed there for some time where they gave me an unconditional release. And then when I left there, I told all the guys that I was playing with in spring training that I wasn't going to go home. I'm going up in the coal mines and play baseball from town to town. And I'd done that all summer, and they'd pay me $10, $15, $20 a game.
Where was that?
That was in Kentucky and West Virginia. Yeah. But then, now when I came to Jamestown, we played at Allen Park. They didn't have the stadium built yet. I had the opportunity to play in the stadium after it was built because I was playing catcher and manager of the Westfield Moose. And we played in the stadium several times. Well, Loud remembers them from Westfield. And lo and behold, I think back, what we had was given to us by the people around Jamestown here. And they didn't have anything else all the way around on the outside as well as they had down here.
So your contract was sold to, so Harry Bisgeier would have bought your contract?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Did you play up in Niagara Falls for
No.
him? You came right to Jamestown?
Yeah, that's right.
We don't know much about Harry Bisgeier. What's your recollections of him?
Well, I don't know how to express my feelings.
Go ahead, it won't go any further.
Well, I mean, I don't care. He's not living now. But he was to me, an unusual man. He was thinking about dollar signs all the time, but still he wanted good ball players. And a lot of them came from Niagara Falls down here when the transfer was made. I don't know what Lyle, were you hooked up with that Lyle? Yeah.
When he had his office down on Second Street,
Yeah, yeah.
he was the fellow that tried to instigate yellow baseball into the game. In fact, when I walked into the business office one day down there, he had a pie plate, pan. And underneath it, he had a little one of these Bunsen burners, you know. And I don't know what kind of a substance he had in it, but it was yellow. And he was doing it, rubbing baseballs. He was around in there, and they turned yellow. He got them yellow, and then he'd set them out. I watched him, you know, and he'd set a few out and let them dry. Took them down to the ballpark at night, had batting practice with them. They showed up a hell of a lot better than the white ball did. But somehow or other it never hooked on or whatnot. But he was the one that thought up the idea of using the yellow ball. I just wanted to, never mind.
Well, isn't that what Charlie Finley? Charlie Finley tried that.
He did it for the case of the umpire.
He tried about everything.
Charlie Finley tried those yellow balls for a while. Did that ever get proved by Major League Baseball? Is that what it is?
I don't think so.
But Harry, what was part of his? Was he everything? Did they have a business manager or anything like that? Was
Who?
Harry Bisgeier? Aside from Harry, was there anybody else staff-wise that you can remember?
He's the only one that I knew that run the whole works. I didn't know of anybody else.
Tell me about Allen Park. You know, Dick, what's your recollections of Allen Park, the field, how it was set up?
I'll tell you the thing that I remember mostly about Allen Park was where the batters were, and everybody that slid into home base gave the catcher all the dirt he wanted. And I mean plenty of it too. Yeah.
Was there a fence in left field? I'm trying to visualize, I know where the park is and I know where they played baseball, but was there an actual fence in left field?
Not a fence, but they had like a screen. Lyle probably remembers that.
In left field?
Yeah,
It went from center field to left field,
yeah.
and then they used the same fence that they used all the way along by the
Where
scoreboard.
the scoreboard was, yeah.
Now, was the scoreboard, how was the scoreboard, inside the fence or outside the fence?
What's that?
The scoreboard at Allen Park? Do you recall?
Don't ask those kind of questions.
Well, I'll ask Dick then, if you...
It was in right field, wasn't it?
It was in right field, yeah.
Yeah, I would say a little bit to the right field. You know, speaking about scoreboard, I remember in 1948 when Westfield went to Wichita, Kansas. The first game that we played there that night was 1:15 in the morning, and the temperature was 1:15. I caught 3 innings, and I dehydrated myself so much I was getting weak and quit perspiring that I asked the manager, I says, you got to get me a couple of lemons. So I start sweating. Where the hell he got any lemons at 1:30 in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning? I don't know, but boy, he got them. I ate 2 of them, skin and all. And I started perspiring. And that field was a beautiful field. But there's 2 things that I remember. I was catching, and all of a sudden the dirt went up like this. And I turned around to the ump, and I says, well, that was a strange amount of wind. I said, where the hell did that come from? He says, I caused that. I said, what do you mean you caused it? He says, well, look at that right down there by your foot. There's a metal thing. I stand on it, and the thing comes off back at the home plate and shoot it right across it. And he stood on it, and well, I'm telling you what, it took dirt and everything away.
The umpire did?
Huh?
The umpire did?
Yeah, it was built right in the ground. Then the other thing was the scoreboard. It was a huge scoreboard. But on top of the scoreboard, there was a duck. Every inning, that duck would start quacking. You could hear it all over the baseball field. And it got to the inning that we were playing, and if it was a 1 run or a 0, it went quack, 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 and the damn thing went right down into the slot. I never saw one like that again the rest of my life.
That was Allen Park.
No, that was a Wichita, Kansas.
I didn't think I remembered any of that at Allen Park. I was selling peanuts and Cracker Jacks and pop.
Yeah.
Those days.
Russ, don't you think we should do that in Beecher Park with them dogs?
Put a
Make that
duck
an
down
I'll tell Ferguson that.
Believe me, if that would draw 1 extra fan, he'd do it.
Do it. Where did you guys change at Allen Park? Did you have a clubhouse? You have a locker room clubhouse at
No.
Allen Park? or-
Didn't have nothing. At that time, I was living in YMCA. And I was just going to bring it up. I was looking here on my notes. We had to go to Canada to play a doubleheader. And I caught both of them. Well, the first game, in about the 3rd inning, it was a guy on 3rd, and the score was tied. Johnny O'Neill was playing shortstop. And the batter gets up and he hits a grounder, boom, and Johnny grabs it. And I'm blocking home plate. And he throws that sucker underhand.
and it hit me right in the chin. You could see the scar right there. Knocked me out cold. When I woke up, here's the manager rubbing my left leg. And I looked at him and I said, "What are you doing with my legs?" He says, "Well, I thought the man slid into you." I said, "Yeah, maybe he did." But I said, the blood was dripping down my I said, "Here's where I got hit, right there." Well, you know, I finished that game. The second game, it was in about the 4th or 5th inning. I get a tick foul, and it takes this fingernail, whop, right straight up like that. So I go over to our bench, and I asked the manager, I says, "Where's the medical kit?" He says, "Oh, God," he says, "I left that thing back in Jamestown." So I said, "Oh, okay." So I went over to their bench. They didn't have one. He says, "I got a pair of pliers." I said, "Give me the pliers." I put the pliers on and I pulled that nail right off. Finished catching the game. We got on the bus after the 2 games that we played, came back to Jamestown. This was the wee hours of the morning. And I did not know that my father he came all the way up from Knoxville, Tennessee to see me play ball. And I happened to be in. So he found out that I was in the YMCA, and he woke me up. And he said, "What?" He says, "You look like you've been hit by a freight train." I said, "What do you mean?" Well, he says, "Go look in the mirror." Well, I did, and this here, my God, it was really swelled right up, you know. And then I come to, this really hurt then. But when I was playing ball, it didn't hurt.
Tell me about Sal Magley.
Yeah, he was quite a man, a good pitcher.
Did you recognize, he was there when you were there, right?
Yeah.
Did you recognize that there was any extraordinary talent there, or is he just one of...
Just a good ball player, pitcher. And he didn't say too much. Didn't talk too much. I think that's why he was a good pitcher.
Why did he look at you, Lyle?
Now, see, they helped us out a little bit there.
Do you remember where Magley stayed when he was here?
No, I don't.
He didn't stay at the Y with you, or?
Mhm.
How about the Nowak that played right field?
Henry Nowak.
Yeah, Henry. Was he any relation to this Nowak political family up there in Buffalo?
I don't know. I don't remember.
But he never played in Jamestown when we moved to the stadium.
Uh-uh.
Just down Park.
Dick Oppenheimer, you remember him. He was a coach at Buffalo College. And one principal fellow. Good man. And a good catcher, too.
You sort of shared the catching duties with Oppenheimer that 1940 year?
Yeah.
Some of the other players on the team, in fact, we had one of them down here from Buffalo, and he was quite entertaining. It was Frankie Heller.
Oh, yeah. I remember Frank.
What's your recollections of Frank Heller?
Just what you said. He got a lot of mouth, and he really knows how to talk.
You
But
never
he-
think of Frank Heller and shyness.
He was one awful nice guy, though. Yeah.
And Johnny Newman, at that point, when he played with you in 1940, was he sort of at the end of his career, though?
It was. And
I don't remember, but it seems to me he developed, what, a cancer or something that causes death?
I honestly don't know.
I don't know.
Cancer.
Johnny died of cancer?
I don't know, but it just seemed I heard that someplace and
Could have been cirrhosis of the liver.
do what?
Was he, well, I know.
See, it could have been cirrhosis of the liver.
Was he, she was a big drinker.
Oh, yeah.
Was he too?
Yeah, I remember he,
That's right.
Too bad his son isn't here today. He could tell.
yeah.
Yeah, but I'll tell you one thing about Newman. When he came to the ballpark, he was sober.
Yeah,
Never went out on the ball field and drunk.
that's right.
Tell you that.
Yeah,
I'll give him credit for that.
yeah.
What kind of crowds did they get at Allen Park there? Spectators?
Well, they roamed around, they'd come and go, and didn't have any seats or anything like that, no stadium. But we'd get quite a crowd, 2,000 or 3,000.
I can remember good crowds.
Yeah.
For the size of the field, good crowds at
Yeah.
Allen Park. I used to.
Remember who else was on that 1940 team, Dick, the other players?
Well, I think I mentioned Dwayne Schaefer.
Wayne Schaefer?
He's deceased. Dick Smith, the pitcher. Let me see. Frank Smirker. Yeah.
Charlie Flitt.
Charlie.
Flitt.
I don't remember.
He was later.
Later.
Yeah, he wasn't
He
41.
was in 42, I know that.
42.
I don't remember him.
Frankie Heller was your first baseman?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then O'Neill, he played shortstop?
Yeah. And then Bobby Blanchard, he played third base. And Smitty, can't remember his first name, he played second. You mentioned him, Smith? There he is.
Are you speaking about 1941 now?
40.
40.
Was it Bradley, the second baseman, Alvin Bradley?
I can't remember. I can't remember.
I didn't see many games out Park, but I saw some.
You had Smith that played second base for the Western Moose. Did you?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, uh-huh.
Who's the who's the manager of that team? Was that a guy named,
O'Rourke?
not O'Rourke,
I
recall? I
Carnevale?
believe he came out in 41.
Carnevale?
No.
no, not
He
him.
plays around.
God, Roger. No, was it? Is it Roger Hensley or Hensey?
I should know this, we just finished the book. So you played, just to continue the chronology, then your contract was sold by up here to Jamestown. You played 1940
Yeah,
with Jamestown Falcons.
that's right.
And then 1941, you played with player manager.
Jamestown.
For Jamestown.
Mhm.
And then you also played with.
Now, that's the year that I enlisted in the service, Air Corps. Yeah,
Is that 41 or 42?
41.
41?
Mhm.
Now, you were under contract at one point with the St. Louis,
St.
Browns?
Louis Browns. And I found out later on, after I came back from being in the service, William O. DeWitt owned my contract. He was the owner of St. Louis Browns. And the contract was sold to, what the hell is that one in Ohio? Can't think of it right now. But he blacklisted me for 5 years because I wouldn't go to spring training after I got out of the service. So knowing that I was blacklisted and I had a family and I didn't want to be traveling all over the countryside, I didn't say anything to anybody, and I just kept working, and I found that out later on, that that's where my contract went to.
Did you want, when you got back in the service, was that an interest of yours to get back into professional baseball?
I thought an awful lot about it, but I had a family, and I sure didn't want to be traveling all over the countryside with a couple of kids and
Being
my wife.
blacklisted, because you played in an outlaw league, you
Probably could have, yeah. But he said he blacklisted me for 5 years. Well, I've never personally talked to the guy, but if he did, he did. That's all that's gone by right now. And I was trying to think. The Ohio team was, damn, I shouldn't remember that.
Was it a D team?
No.
Marietta, or?
No.
a major league club?
Huh?
A major league club?
No. I think it was AAA.
Columbus?
No.
Toledo?
Toledo
Mud
Mud
Hens,
Hens.
yeah.
That's what it was. Yeah. And you know, not getting too far away from playing baseball, and I played around here. August the 18th, I took my retirement from the courthouse. And with the Chautauqua County Sheriff's Department and the courthouse, I put in 44 years of law enforcement.
Wow.
And I enjoyed every day. I left there as a senior investigator, sergeant. And I would have stayed on longer, but after a while, you think 2 or 3 times, you know. People I worked with were people I loved to talk to. It was really nice to work that job. And I'll tell you a little something secret about that job. Charles C. McCluskey was our incoming sheriff. At that time, I went to work there. And he found out that I lost my father and my brother wanted to go to work on the railroad, get that mighty old check, you know, every week or 2. So I run the place of business alone and working 16, 18, 20 hours some day. So he contacted me and asked me to come to his office. He wanted to talk to me. We sat down and talked for a little while. I agreed to go to work for him. Now, the catch is this. I never asked that man what kind of money he was going to pay me. And my first paycheck, I got to figuring it out, I made $2,250 a year. Got paid once a month. And I had 2 kids, and I had my wife working for the Chautauqua County Boy Scout office as head bookkeeper. Put both of my kids through college. But back in them days, you worked and you worked. You didn't go out and go hobnobbing with anybody. You got up in the morning, you went to work. That's the way it was. And I enjoyed it, too. But McCluskey, he got that job through, there was a guy that actually won the race here in Jamestown, head of the Detective Bureau, Dick Monahan. He died of cancer of the throat in December. He was going to take office January the 1st. So the governor was told about it. McCluskey was selling plywood. He was retired from the FBI. Wonderful man. And the governor asked him to take over the job. And he was there for 12 years. He turned everything into makings of just like the FBI. Really, really nice. But I've often thought about, I went to work for the guy and I didn't even ask him how much money he was going to pay me.
Just glad you got a job.
That's true, yeah.
Dick, what's the biggest game you ever played in?
The biggest game?
Biggest game? You know,
Oh.
semi-pro, pro, the one that you kind of reflect back and say, that was Dick Ressler's finest hour.
Well, we had a championship between Mayfield, Kentucky and Hopkinsville, Kentucky. And the score was really tight. And don't you know, the batter gets up and hits a pop fly right on the baseline, going to first base. And then he starts running to get to the base. And our first baseman stood there and he puts up his fist like that. And the guy run right into his fist and knocked himself out. I'll never forget that. And that was a championship game, too. Yeah. He just stood there like that, you know. And the guy run into it. Wow.
What was your strong suit, Dick? As a catcher or a hitter? Or?
No, my arm, my throwing. We played down at Olean one time, Jamestown Falcons, and we played, Olean had a team, Bedford, I think they called it Bedford field, baseball field. And before the game, they had a lot of all different things that you could do. All the catchers on each team had a chance. They put a cardboard box on second base. They give you 3 chances to throw in the box. The first 2 I throwed in that box, right in the center. And the third one, they give you 3 times, hits the ground and it goes in the box. And they gave me Silex coffee. They just came out in the glass like these things now. Man, I thought that was the biggest thrill I had in a long time. Yeah. And they had fungo bats. You remember them fungo bats? Boy, I'm telling you, some of them guys could hit a ball. Oh my God. But they'd run bases. Talk about running bases. Went to spring training, and the coach down in South Carolina, he had a stopwatch. And you start out at home plate, and you go around the bases. Well, I run around the bases, you know, and just about, I thought, well, I got it made now. He says, keep going, keep going. I run that thing 5 times, you know. I came in and I was pooped, I'm telling you. But he done that to build your legs up. Back in them days, I didn't think that really needed to be done, but that's what he was doing.
Who was the best pitcher that you ever caught?
Oh boy, let me think. We had a guy, I didn't want to mention him.
No.
Oh well, I'll send him a letter. But we had a guy, he was from Texas, Ray Minor. He throwed a ball 100 miles an hour. But he could not remember signals.
Must have been fun.
And you know, what happened? This particular play I'm thinking of, I called for a low outside pitch. The batter was right-handed. And I'm sitting over here behind home plate, right where the line is, waiting for the ball. So what the hell happens? The ball comes up here, and the batter swings at it,
and it ticks and hits me right in the goozle apple here. Well, I started falling backwards, you know, and it's 60 feet to that stadium. I went all the way back, and I hit my back on the stadium wood, and I just sat there. Here comes the kid that throwed the ball. He says, "Dick, you're all right? You're all right?" I says, "You know, I ought to get up here and hit you right between the damn eye. Can't you remember?" Oh, I give him hell, you know. It's like talking to a brick wall, you know.
Probably right-handed.
But that guy, if he could only put his noodle up to his arm, he would be in the major last time I saw him. But he was something. 6'3", big. In fact, he even told me one time that he was what the hell they call him, a cowboy on the ranch down there in Texas. But those days, you think about those, I don't know.
Dick, did you ever catch a no-hitter?
No. I've caught an awful lot of no scores.
We always hear about the pitcher's emotion pitching a no-hitter, but I often wondered what the catcher's emotion was calling and catching a no-hitter. Got to be very emotional for the catcher, too.
You know, that's something that I think back. I tried to memorize every ball player that comes to bat that we were playing. And it pays off. If you can just remember now, he took a swing at this one, low outside pitch. Or he went for the biggie up here. Those, if you can remember every one of them, they got 9 players, same as you got, see. But it's hard to remember.
The strike zone when you played ball was armpits to knees?
Oh, yeah. And you know, we had a guy named Charlie Mumford. He was a pitcher. And he went with the Brooklyn Dodgers after he left Westfield. And that guy, he throwed the sharpest drop that I think I ever caught in my life. And I could always tell if he was really on the ball or if he wasn't. Because if he wasn't, the ball would hit 3 feet in front of home plate. Wouldn't even get to me. But I'd have to manage around to catch it somewhere or other. And that's where I used to get all these marks of threads of the baseball. And I had plenty of them, too. Yeah.
Were you on a scene in Westfield when Jim Constanti was there?
I remember Jim. Yeah. Jim was a very well-liked man. I was trying to think, he graduated from Buffalo University, I think. I believe. Yeah.
Basketball coach up there, wasn't
Yeah. Coach
he?
was there.
Yeah.
One of the early, most effective relief pitchers in baseball.
You know, fellas, it makes me feel so good. I can sit here and carry on a conversation with everybody getting in on it. I enjoy that.
We enjoy you.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, I mean, I didn't do nothing. No.
We found the manager named Joe O'Rourke. Joe O'Rourke.
That's the guy.
He got a book here.
Yeah, that's the guy. Oh, where'd you get the book?
That's a book that was printed years ago. Like, when NYPD was sold out the games, the Jamestown games years ago.
Oh,
You
good.
never saw this?
I don't recall.
Frank Hyde's work.
Frank Hyde put it together.
Oh, Frank. I remember Frank. Yeah.
1939.
Frank was a real baseball fan.
I mean, the book was printed in '39, Laura? No, that's
No,
not
this
it.
book, no, this book was printed.
Frank didn't come on the scene until the
It's not
mid-40s.
This is
Dick,
printed.
does the name the sports writer talked about before Frank Hyde was very active in early baseball down there was Stuart McGuire. Does that name mean anything to you?
No?
He apparently was the guy, from a historical perspective, Stuart was the guy that laid down the first money to actually buy the franchise, the New York Penn League.
Oh, yeah?
He was a sports editor in 1938. He went to a meeting where a bunch of the cities in the area decided, let's create a major league baseball, or a professional league. And it was Stuart McGuire had the chutzpah enough to say, here's a check for X dollars, I want a franchise.
Oh.
He brought the team to Celeron, and then after a week, he decided he didn't want to be in this anymore. That's when he sold it to the Pirates. But he was the guy. But he was the sports editor in the late 30s, early 40s.
I don't remember him. No? I remember the team being in Celeron.
Yeah. What was that park like? Did you ever play in that Celeron
No.
park?
No, No.
You have any recollections of that park, the baseball park in Celeron?
No, I can't really say that if I was there playing, I could have remembered.
Yeah.
But I never did play there. No?
Dick, what are some of the memories you have of the other cities in the league that you were in on your trips? You remember
Yeah.
the fields and the communities?
Well, I'm trying to think of, as I told you, that Hopkinsville, Kentucky was the most beautiful field.
But I'm thinking in the P.O.N.Y. leagues.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. See, we had, we had two teams in Canada. One in Olean. Bradford.
Was Hornell in the league then? Or come later?
Batavia. Cornell, no, I don't think it was.
Come later.
Yeah.
Cornell still has their same park that they played in. They keep it right next to a school. They have a astroturf field just like Jamestown. As a matter of fact, Jamestown was patterned after that. Maple City Park is called. But I think the layout of the park is different than it was when they played NYC. Did you ever see a game down there? Cornell? Did you, Russ?
No.
Right. Did you ever face Warren Spahn?
No,
No?
no, I would have loved to. Most of his playing was out west.
Right. Well, he pitched for Bradford. That's why I was wondering.
No, I don't remember him.
And I think he played at Allen Park, too.
I think he pitched, we dug that out, he pitched one game, there was a doubleheader. It was kind of fun because they were doubleheader, Bradford against Jamestown at Allen Park. The first game was pitched by Spahn against Jamestown, and the second game was Magley against Bradford. They didn't match,
Oh,
but it was just one of those happenstances that it's kind of fun to say that one day up in Jamestown, New York,
Yeah.
Allen Park, both Spahn and Magley pitched on the same day.
yeah.
So it was one of those opportunities.
You know, you think back of all the ball players that are deceased. There's a hell of a lot of them in our day and time, of the age that we know. Yeah.
That's why we're glad you're here, Dick.
Not half as glad as he is.
I'm sure glad to hear you say that. Yeah, that's like the guy says,
42?
no, not me. I was in the service then.
Did you play ball in the service at all?
Yeah. Yeah, I played, we had a team in the Air Force in South America. We go from island to island, south of Canal Zone, and we won the championship. And that was a lot of fun.
Did your paths in the service cross with any of the major leaguers who played on? They seem to have kind of...
No, I actually didn't think too much about that. I mean, we played ball every day except Sunday.
Very...
Oh, yeah.
Just
yeah.
to keep busy?
Well, I look back on it, and it was really a pearl to me,
because I didn't have to work. Only thing I did was play baseball, that's all.
No KP.
No KP, right. Yeah.
This guy is in that one, Jack Darling,
Yeah.
Lee.
No, he hasn't, he was Falcons sports writer.
I found an obituary on him.
Yeah, Falcons. There's Johnny Newman, I see him.
Came here about 1940.
Oh, yeah.
Parkhurst is there.
More or less.
That little kid way over there is Greg Malevy Jr.
Right here.
Yeah.
Sort of the
Yeah.
interim wire. Died like I think it was 43.
Greg Malevy was quite a man as to, hell, he was even in the movies with his ex-wife.
Junior.
Yeah, I see, he just turned 56. But that's pretty, that's pretty bad because he graduated with Russ Dietrich.
He's the first Jamestown.
Did you notice that? Malevy, it was in the paper the other day, turned 56.
I didn't see that.
Yeah, every time Joanne saw it, she says, yeah, 56 plus.
Yeah.
No, that scoreboard up and, they changed that field up there in Allen Park to softball. We played softball up there and,
I can remember Sal Bagley and
but there was a
pitching.
left-handed.
Yeah. Yeah.
My dad used to
We were
take us
playing
to ball
against him, went
games.
over that scoreboard.
Yeah.
Watch them play up there.
Well,
Celery.
the coach from, the coach from Panama, baseball coach, he hit one out of the short.
And I
The stadium.
What those things are.
Softball.
No, I
We
never
played
thought
softball.
that.
What's that?
Remember
Those things that are on the seats.
And he hit one.
It's strange,
They're at every seat, they look like a.
strange looking.
Softball.
If I ever get to
I can't remember what his name was, he was a coach at Panama.
But he was out.
Al Barber.
Well, I bet they're
Al Barber.
pillows.
Huh?
They're pillows.
Is that what they were?
Sure.
I wonder.
Yeah,
Yeah, we played a game.
They're hanging.
Yeah.
See the bench right there? Okay, they're hanging there, but in their uniform.
I wouldn't think they'd leave him out.
Well, that's the day of the game right there.
Yeah.
Right them out.
And it shows the left field, and it shows the sideline.
I took that picture in 1942
Which was
season there.
third base foul.
Yeah.
I was there at every home game.
I'm kind of sorry that we didn't take pictures like that.
They were posing for the paper.
Yeah.
I snapped it with my little camera, and that's what I got.
People said.
Were you talking?
Is that the Woodland home? Is that first base? Must be.
Yeah,
Is that
that's,
the children?
I bet it is. Gus Davis Adall was then.
Is that
Yeah,
the
that's,
people at the children?
Yeah,
No,
that's.
wait a minute.
He used to play exhibition games against the major teams. He's the one who said, I used to want to give a guy.
This is taken out in the left field, wasn't it?
Well,
Is it Willie Williams?
that would be first base side.
That was first base?
Yeah. Was there a mention, I missed something, I was looking at this book here. Can I ask a question? I remember him standing.
Now, that would be the children's home if that was first base.
Right along the first base line.
About who designed the stadium down here. Was that brought up today?
I don't remember that.
Tinkham, didn't they?
I think it's on the plaque down there. The
Huh?
original plaque, I think it's on the original plaque down there. I think it was
Weren't
Tinkham.
Beck and Tinkham
Well,
were
the guy, the fellow that
the...
originally set up that stadium down there was the guy that made Offerman Stadium up at Buffalo. Laid out the same way as it was up at Buffalo, the Offerman Stadium. Now, I don't know what his name is, I know what his name was. But that's the guy that came down here and set out that stadium down there, and it's been that way ever since.
Tinkham probably hired him as a consultant.
Huh?
I say Tinkham probably hired him as a consultant.
That's right, he did. Because, well, you guys know about Offerman Stadium up there. This part down here was the same thing.
Isn't it kind of interesting looking at that 1941 movie? Think about it, that is 56 years ago. When you look at that stadium, 1941, and you look at it today, not much has changed.
No?
Uh, at all.
One thing I noticed has changed, the people would park their cars
Right on.
the fence.
Anymore for foul balls.
Well, they brought the right field lines in. They brought the left field lines in. Now,
When it took the wooden fence down, it brought it in a couple
where
of
it
feet.
was 361 down the right field line, and I think it was 341
Where's my?
down the left field
Oh,
line.
come on,
Yes,
come on.
please,
Elmer,
thank you.
you're a big shot.
He went over that right.
Yeah. Never off.
You know, another bit of trivia at the stadium back in the, had to be in the 60s, late 60s, early 70s. You know, we hear the name George Toma tied with Kansas City, and they used to bring him in to do the groundwork at in the Super Bowl and the World Series. George Toma helped rebuild the infield at College Stadium. He was a friend of Hillman Lyons, and Hillman brought him in here one year when we had to renovate the stadium. And Jules Newhouse was president of the Citizen Board at that time, and he got his son, Norm Newhouse, took one of the big tractor-trailer trucks that they used at Genesee Distributor, and he drove that to Pittsburgh, and he and a guy in Pittsburgh loaded that tractor-trailer with sod, and then he drove it back to Jamestown, way overweight, and we unloaded it down at the stadium, and George Toma spent a weekend down there, helped us re-sod the infield at College Stadium.
Just the infield.
Just the infield. Yeah.
Probably came from Seth's Nursery down in Mars, Pennsylvania.
And I don't know exactly where, but when Norm and one of the helpers down at the, he drove it down, they were there all night. He helped, he got a little bit of help, and he loaded that tractor trailer himself and drove it back to Jamestown.
I bet he was a tired man.
Yes, he was. But if anybody in the city that could do it would have been Norm in those days. He was like a young bull.
Yeah.
For those who, since Russ is here and talking about the stadium, for those who did not attend the ceremonies, which the renaming of the stadium for Russ, at some point during when it gets to be wintry and snowy, there was a wonderful videotape that was done of that ceremony, and perhaps we can intersperse a little bit of the highlights of that ceremony together with an interview. I know Russ would never. I keep asking him for him to be the show here, but he will never do that. But we interviewed Russ one time about his prior life, and so sometime we'll throw those pieces together in a little bit of a video, the Russ Dietrich story in the stadium and stuff.
Save it till the next life.
Do it while he's still alive.
Don't forget to get him in playing up at Lincoln Field.
Anybody
They
who's at the
play
big
American Legion ball up there.
That goes back a while. There's the guy sitting there. The reason I don't smoke cigarettes today is sitting across from me right there called Lyle Parkers. When we were little kids, teenagers and just before teenagers, Lyle used to come and help our baseball team and hang around and help us, and he always impressed upon us, you can't smoke and play baseball. And I found out you cannot smoke and not play baseball too. It works both ways. It made such an impression on me and several of the other young guys around there. It was Lyle that kept us thinking baseball and thinking health. And if there's one individual, and I told Lyle this for 40 years, there's one individual that guaranteed that I wouldn't smoke, along with my mother and father, sitting right there, Lyle Parker. Thank you, Lyle.
Quite a while.
Most guys wouldn't have spent time with the kids, and most guys wouldn't have said anything. They'd have just let us beat ourselves up. But,
There's one other
You
thing
know,
I
you're
think was meant, go ahead, Connie.
you're speaking about giving up cigarettes. 2 years ago, now I never smoked a cigarette until I was 26 years old, I think it was. I was in the service. But a couple of years ago, I ended up in St. Vincent's Hospital in Erie, flat on my back. They took my gallbladder out. They took my spleen out. They said that I had a very severe case of
poisoning of the bloodstream. So they kept feeding me antibiotics. Well, this antibiotic bit, it was really something because the nurse would come in and say, Mr. Ressler, here's your T-bone steak tonight. Oh man, I want to get up banging. But what I'm getting after is that I couldn't smoke any cigarettes. And I done this the hard way, but I never regretted it. And, boy, if you just quit cold turkey like that, it's rough. I don't care what anybody says.
Most of the major leaguers have bubble gum now instead of tobacco, don't they?
Bubble gum and sunflower seeds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
David, so you can see him sitting there spitting out seeds.
Yeah, all the time.
I want to hear my wife talk about that. We want this Cubs play because it's in the afternoon most of the time.
Yeah.
She's terrible. What do they do that for? What are you asking me for? How do I know? I never did it. But I tell you, people have these ideas and things like that. But there's one thing that I did want to mention. I think we overlooked the fact, maybe it was brought up here, but I didn't hear it, about Johnny Newman after he got through playing baseball. He was a bus driver here.
I remember that.
And he also ran some of the baseball teams for the kids. And I'll tell you, huh?
Great play for him.
Yeah. And well, then I should say nothing about it to you because you know about it.
Say it to them, because they don't.
Hmm?
Say it to them, because they don't.
Because I can hear about some of the kids talk about some of the things that he taught them, that he learned, which is enormous as far as I'm concerned, because if the guy can bring it from one thing to another generation, I can't say anything wrong with that.
I remember when he became a bus driver. Yeah.
They didn't know whether he was going to be a good bus driver or not because they couldn't get out of the entrance.
At some point, for those who saw that, I did a video on Johnny Newman's kind of life, and Greg Malevy Jr. talks about his remembrances of Johnny Newman. You know, and of course, Greg was just a kid, and he remembers Johnny mostly as a bus driver. He says, what I remember most about Johnny Newman was the fact he had this permanent ridge in his gut. Because the wrist steering wheel was going through his belly, you know, and it's so big. That was his very life. And I do remember John played Babe Ruth. He was my manager. We won a league championship. The only championship I ever won was Johnny Nee. He was the only guy that really taught us kind of sophisticated plays. I was a second baseman, and not particularly good. But we had these pickoff plays.